Your IT company heralded the beginning of the IT revolution, and it was a groundbreaking success. Where did the drive to push it forward come from?
My background is parents that really worked very hard. So for me, it was very normal that if you wanted success, you had to work very hard. And therefore, at that time, we didn't have very many startup companies. So I just started out, 2 people and me. And it was just because it wasn't such a big success when I really was breaking out from the auditing company that I was hired with. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I really had to start out only 2 people and me. And we ended up 230 people. And it was really because I was afraid that we didn't have customers enough. So I was really out selling, having new customers. And then I was afraid that we didn't have manpower enough really to do all the work. So I hired people. And then I was afraid that I didn't have customers enough. And you see, the levels I have to level it out. And that's really, a bit different background from all the startup companies now. I was a hard worker. And I still remember when I was below 100 hours per week. Mm-hmm. And my family really enjoyed that. But it was a hard period. And that was part of the background.
And values play a very big role in the company for the success.
Yes, I really focus very much on values. And therefore, my 4 words was really the morality. Not the bad way of moral, but that you really know what you really should do for other people. Mm-hmm. Really take care of them and be honest and do whatever they really expect you to do, naturally inside the contract. But it was really important for me that to live up to the expectation and make it as a very good service. The other thing was that always deliver quality. And we discussed that very much, my employees and me, and what was really good quality.
Yeah.
And the third was having fun. Using that many hours on your work really needs also to have fun doing the work.
Right.
And therefore we made crazy things and had fun with that. And also the customers respected that since they could see that we were hard workers. And the fourth was money. You can't really do all the things without earning money as well. And therefore that was a fourth value. And in those 4 values put them together, it made a balance. Yes. And it worked for me and for the company and also for the people.
So moral, quality, fun, and money.
Yes.
You have it.
Yeah. It's really fun to listen to. But that was really what we did.
How was your relationship with your family growing up? And did they serve as an inspiration to you in any way?
Yes, they did. They were so very much hard workers that I said, okay, I'll make it better than them, since they worked very hard, but didn't earn very much money. So therefore I said I had to make it better, really having some ideas that really could make a service that the people would pay for. So therefore they were shoemakers, both of them, and handmade shoes, and they were hit by the industry. Since Italian shoes, factory made, came into the market and took over. And my father never really made any handmade shoes afterwards. And, the price level for handmade shoe and factory shoe, it's quite a bit.
Right.
And therefore, I really said, I'll find out something that will stay.
So you really understood the importance of the sort of the foresight and the vision.
Yes.
Through that.
Yes.
Wonderful.
That's also the quality. Saying that really, if you want really to be in the market also in the future, you have to deliver all the new things, all what the customers wanted, and also deliver it in a quality that people really can say, okay, this functions. It really is functioning and it's really good for us. We earn money being customers at Helge.
What made you quit your university job in the face of economic and employment uncertainty and you decided to build collaborative robots instead?
So I always had this entrepreneur in me. So I always thought I wanted to make my own company or something like that, because I didn't want to have a boss. I didn't like being controlled by anybody. So I was always trying to find a way to avoid that. And that's actually why I ended up doing a PhD, because I knew my supervisor wouldn't interfere much with my project. So I took that PhD to try to have my own space in my own time. And also as a child, I had some like toy companies, and also while studying computer science in Aarhus, I had a small company running. And I took some courses in entrepreneurship and so on. So I think I always had that thought in me that I wanted to start a company at some point. But why Universal Robots, and why at that time? I mean, I had been in academia for some time when I started Universal Robots, and I had an assistant professorship at the University of Southern Denmark, and spent some time in Los Angeles and Tokyo also doing research. And I've kind of seen that, research is going in like cycles, and it's like, I thought it was the same ideas getting reinvented that was already invented 20 years ago. And I could see how it was hard to really make an impact out of the research. I mean, I wanted what I was doing to have some kind of meaning. So I thought it was time to try to leave academia and try to make a company out of the things I was working on anyway. And so that was another reason why you can say that I quit the job. I wanted to make something that was not just another research paper or another spin to get publications or anything like that. So and then we were a group of people at university discussing how to make a new kind of robot. So something like 8 people sitting in a couch, not unlike this one. It was black though. And then we were discussing what kind of robots would the world need to take robotics to the next step. And we had been discussing that for a year or so. And then Christian Casso, who is one of the main people in that group discussing this, he decided to start a company. He called me, he said, let's do this. And then we actually kicked it off together with Kasper Støy. We wrote a business plan, and then we kicked off the company. And Christian and I, we quit our job, as you said, and went out into it. So it was, of course, not a economically safe move, but and actually we spent a lot of our private money also trying to build up this company, and also some investor money. And we were almost bankrupt after 2 or 3 years. So it was definitely not a certain economically certain way to go, but it was a lot of work also. As Helge said, super much work. We seriously considered sleeping in the office to avoid the commute time and simply not spend those 15 minutes each way, even though we lived nearby. So we worked a lot for many years and still managed to almost go bankrupt. But we also managed to, in the end, get investors and get commercial traction. So it was a good bet after all. But
yeah, a lot of people would want not to have a boss, and you believed in the idea of collaborative robots and pushed through. So how did you really motivate yourself or keep yourself motivated to push on, even in the face of bankruptcy and perhaps the initial struggles that were there?
Yeah, but actually we pretty quickly knew that the product we had was really meeting the need we have identified. So the market need behind Universal Robots came out of a research project where we tried to make robots for the Danish food industry. We went out, studied some food companies, and saw they had a need for flexible automation. We tried with a traditional robot to give them that flexibility. It was not possible. And after some years working in Universal Robots, we had a prototype we brought out into a greenhouse, Hjortebjerg Gartneri, near Odense, and we set it up. We got it working in a few hours, and we could see that this product was actually what would meet the needs that we had identified. So I was sure that the robot we had was the right product. But of course, that didn't mean that investors believed that these young nerds from Odense could make a robot that would, compete against the big robotic players in the world. So it was not easy to convince other people, but I was sure about it. So I kept fighting, even when we were completely bankrupt. There's a small funny story that when we had 30,000 kroner left in the account, and Christian and I had not get paid any salary for several months at that time, we realized we needed to have a new motor in the robot. but we could not, for 30,000 kroner, that's, what is that in dollars? It's like $5,000. There's no way we could buy a new motor design from some other company. So for the last money, Christian, he bought big rolls of copper wire that we were supposed to start winding our own motors from this copper wire. And then we went down to 0 kroner in the bank account, and there was no way we could make hand-wound motors. I mean, that didn't work out very well. So it was a very tough time, and we had 6 months without any salary, and also employees were not happy about it. And I was angry at Christian for spending the last 30,000 kroner on copper wire. So it was a tough time after that.
What would you tell to other founders who have not yet gained commercial traction, but always continue to believe that there is something in the product? They believe in the idea, they believe in the product. So when does an entrepreneur really decide either it is now or never? Do you have any advice there?
Well, I mean, if you don't try, it won't work. But for me, it was a feeling of this can work. I mean, I thought we had an identified market need. I didn't think of it like that, of course, at that time, but I knew there was a need for what we wanted to do, and we knew we could do it because of all the stuff I'd learned from my PhD. There was a lot of technology in my PhD work, including some easy programming knowledge that came from us trying to teach kids how to program robot football players to push balls around and all that. So we had an identified need. We thought we could build that product that met the need. So I had a feeling that we could start this. I had no clue about running businesses, and we thought that we could build a robot, sell it, get money to buy more parts, and then build more robots and sell them, and so on. That was our plan, but of course that was a super naive plan, and we now know that we needed to sell around 25 robots per month before we even reached break even. And we didn't think like that when we started, so that was some tough learning.
Software and hardware, and Universal Robots has this unique combination of software and hardware competence, which is not generally very common in a robotic ecosystem. What do you think made that combination possible?
Well, I think that is exactly what robotics is, and traditionally software people who think about robotics, they think only about software, and mechanical engineers, they think mostly about the mechanical engineering, and of course electronics people and power electronics and so on, they think more about those aspects. But robotics is really the combination of electronics, mechanics, and software applied to some application area, some domain. So in order to be successful in robotics, and I would argue this is what robotics is a combination of these other engineering disciplines combined with some product knowledge or market knowledge. And that's what robotics is. When we started Universal Robots, robotics was very new, and most universities, few universities in the world had a robotics degree, and most of them were coming from computer science backgrounds. So they did not have this view of robotics as the combination of all the things. But I think that's definitely the trend these days, that people have realized robotics is the combination of electronics, mechanics, and software.
If I can just interrupt a little bit, I think this is really fantastic, and that's really what made the success for Esben and his team, and it's fantastic to know about. But you also asked how far can we go, and if we are mentors for startup people, I normally really let them know that they should really realize that they can push themselves over the limit. And I can hear that both Esben and I, we have been close to the limit, but it's fantastic. And I think we need to see that willingness really to go over the limit, since if you really will make a revolution, you have to be ready also to go further than normal people would do. But at the same time, I also, as a mentor for quite a few startup people, have said that they should really think about that before really going that far. Since if they should know if they really will let the family really take all the consequences of that. Since if you are so focused on your work, you will forget a lot of things. And I have made mistakes in that way in my life. and therefore that's a thing that they really also have to think through before they're starting a company like this.
Helge, you have been the business angel of the year. What key elements do you look for in startups before you decide to invest in them?
It's a team. Naturally, the idea. Can this idea bring some values for the customers? Can they earn money out of it? And that's naturally the first thing. But after that, that's a team. If they really have the willingness to really go in, all of them, and do a work together, and really also be optimistic, help each other really to see the positive news, even though you haven't had a salary for half a year.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is that we all wanted the company to be successful. So all personal issues and disagreements and so on, they were always handled by prioritizing the best for the company. And that was sometimes very tough personally, but that was what we did.
What excites both of you about specific technologies in the robotics and drone industry?
You have to start.
I have to start. Okay, so there's so many things going on in all sorts of technology, and of course, IT technology is part of robotics, and it's booming a lot, and the whole cloud and data, and all companies are trying to own the data, but somehow robotics, or you can say edge devices or Internet of Things devices, they have an edge there because they can provide the data, and that's it ties it a little bit into robotics. So robotics is interesting because it can be the provider of the data that everybody wants these days. So that's exciting. And then, of course, 3D printing and the opportunities that gives is exciting. And general reduction of electronics and cost of mechanics is also opening up new doors for robotics. And so the main thing in robotics is that we're just on the brink of getting robotics out into a lot of new application areas because of all these other things I just mentioned. Traditional robotics were only used in factories, more or less exclusively used in factories, but they are really taking the step out of factories right now. So we have seen self-driving cars, which use a lot of robotic technology. They are good in controlled environments like highways, but they are also getting better and better at less controlled environments like the city streets. We see farming robots coming up, we see construction robots coming up, we see healthcare and medtech robots, and we also see the offshore and maritime robots coming up besides these other things. So there's very soon there'll be a boom in robotics applications.
You famously quoted as saying that robotics will become bigger than the IT industry. Why do you think so?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it will. And it's also a little bit provoking because people sometimes think as robotics as part of the IT industry, or they say we are good at IT, so we're also good at robotics. But as I said before, it's really a new thing. So it's IT, electronics, and mechanics and then the domain knowledge that is robotics. And you can just look at the numbers. So many new things that can be automated with robotics that has not been automated yet because the technology is ready for it now. And that will really create a boom in the coming years, and robotics will come out of the factories into so many other application areas.
I do agree in very many of the ways what you were talking about. I'm coming from the IT business, and they have told me quite a few times that we would go under since it would be departed and just been used in different businesses. And it is, but still, you really have some new levels in the IT development, and therefore you will see that IT will still exist as a separate industry. But else, you're right. We, as IT people, we will be taken into a lot of different areas, and therefore I do accept your provocation. But still, I think we will see so many new combinations that we didn't have fantasy really to realize now. But because we have really come over some limits, we'll see new limits, and we'll also come over them. And that's really when we have combination of different disciplines. And I really see this is fun.
Mm.
But we will still be there as an IT industry. That's for sure.
I'm sure the IT industry will still be there, and similar to electricity industry is still there. But IT will become like pervasive of everything, similar to electricity being pervasive of everything today.
Yes.
And as such, it will probably, I mean, robotics is a different thing. That's also my point, that you can't just take an IT company and make it into a robotics company. No. You can't take an IT investor and making him into a robotics investor. At least it takes some getting used to. I mean, the time constants are different. So in IT, you can make an app and you can get it out there, and in 6 months you can see if you get traction or not. But in robotics, it just takes more time. There's so many things also related to safety, and it just takes more time to make robotics products and go and test them. And some investors are not geared for that kind of patience. So I normally say robotics is somewhere between IT and medtech investments because of the time constants involved. We're talking 3 to 4 years instead of like 6 months in pure IT and 10 years in medtech.
Also back in time, we had to struggle with a lot of limits that we didn't really know how to handle. And we came over it and had the success. And therefore, I'm not surprised that just like you really had to combine with a lot of different disciplines, we also had to do it. And we still have in IT. And therefore, you'll see some algorithms and things like that that will really change the world in the future. Handling data and things like that, it'll be a total different discipline. And we'll combine that. And therefore, we really need each other. Concerning the drones, it's very much a robot. In my opinion, it's just like a robot. It's only that it moves in 3D, a bit more than a normal robot. But it also really takes care of limits. Else you should use ladders or cranes or whatever, really to combine an active robot. Now you can just have it in the air and you can do a lot of different things. And it'll help and it'll change the whole setup for a lot of industries in the future. And it's just a matter of time before they see the opportunities and see the values that we can gain from that. And it'll be fun. And therefore, it's good that we're doing it. Concerning the UR activity, Universal Robots, we are so glad that they had success. All the Odense industries, robots, drone companies, will have much bigger values because now the whole world will look to Odense, and naturally they will see that we were able to really to handle the robot challenges and make very big success there. And we are now in the middle also having some successful drone companies, and will be a city where we really do have so many opportunities really to have robots, drones, whatever, but in that kind of family. Also, I see some of the fintech IT companies coming up, and they also are standing on the shoulders of the robot success, since we have an environment where we always look for kind of disruption. What Universal Robots did was really do things that you couldn't really do with big robots back in time. You disrupted the way that it was handled, and now they are able to do it much more efficiently and also much cheaper. And that's really fantastic that you have really gained all that. And we'll see that the whole setup, the whole mindset will also influence the IT industry, and we'll come up with solution also in Odense that will be success.
Yeah. Do you have any examples where IT and robotics have come together to create a unique solution, perhaps where AI comes into play and so on and so forth?
Just let me take the drone company that I'm involved with. Placing a computer in the drone and having an AI system placed in that computer in the drone, then you are really able to change behavior for the drone. It can by itself find out what to do. And it's just naturally what it sees is what it really should react on. And then suddenly it's doing something different. It's just a matter of time when it really comes up with ideas that the programmer didn't expect it to do.
Some specific applications that you have to share then?
Yeah, finding things, and naturally in the security business, but also in a lot of the harbors, they are automizing a lot of things, having drones placed different, taking over different activities, and they'll do it much easier. And they're really disrupting a lot of things. Naturally, people can be manual workers. Naturally, can be afraid of that, but they'll soon find out that it'll be much more meaningful work that they'll do in the future. But we have a lot of examples in both Quadsat and in Lawrence. What they are really doing is something that can be improved even more. And I'm looking very much forward to see AI taking over. Finding out itself new opportunities, new things that it can do.
That's very interesting. What specific advancements are there in the underwater robots that are happening right now?
Yeah, so similar to Lawrence that has put, you can say, vision processing AI into a drone, so it can take its own decisions. But I would actually challenge you a little bit on that. If that's really what we want robots to do, I mean, it's this whole discussion about autonomy or automatic. Do we want robots to make their own decisions, or do we want robots to follow rules that are made by programmers or owners or humans? That's another topic. But there's no doubt that robot technology is good at some things, which is to be consistent and doing it the same every time and doing what it's told to do overall. And when you, for example, in Lawrence technology, you fly over an area with a drone, you can exactly record what's going on in that area. And you have this whole data collection capability, which is one of the ties back to the IT industry. And similar, if you want to do underwater inspection, which is what we're doing in Blue Atlas Robotics, then you can take a drone down and make a full scan of a ship, and you can be sure you covered all parts and you know exactly what it looked like, and you get the timestamp of each picture taken and so on. You can relate it to the 3D model of the ship. And all these things is exactly what robots are good at. And a little bit like I talked before about, robots are good at collecting the data that this whole IT data-driven future that we're looking at really wants. So that's one of the key strengths of robots. But I'm actually curious about your talk about this. Do we want AI to kind of take decisions for robots? And of course, when you say it like that, it's super scary and all the bells are ringing. But I think it's because of the word AI, which is not an AI. It's basically just a statistics engine, and it's basically just trying to make sense of what it sees and take the appropriate action on that. But when we call it an AI, we think of it like something competing with our intelligence or something like that, which I'm pretty sure it's not.
It's not that.
Yeah, I know, but that's the word is dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the sense of using the right words, I see your point, and I do agree. But you know that I've been living with a lot of limits, and suddenly those limits they have disappeared. And what I'm saying is also the limits of how robots, drones, underwater drones can do in the future. They'll also come over those limits in time. Therefore, I'm totally sure that they'll come over it, and it'll be much easier, a lot of things. Still, we have a lot of computers using the data, and that's really what AI is about.
It is. It's data crunching. So it's a statistics engine somehow.
Yeah, and therefore, what I'm normally saying is AI is just a lot of if statements. If this, then do that, and if this, do that. Yes. And that's really what AI is about.
Yes.
It's just doing it on so much data and so quick that you will find it in a different way. I'll guess that our brains is working very much in that way anyway. So
maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going back from home, and suddenly I'm parking somewhere else. What's happening? That's fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Looking back at your achievements, what would you like the next generation to look at as your legacy?
for me, it is really important that they will see this kind of freedom that all the robots, all the tools that we will be surrounded with, see the opportunity to use it in a correct way.
I hope that my legacy is that I can help communicate this some more and say that we really want robots to be a tool that help people do what we want with this planet or with our lives, and not a threat to our lives.
Yeah, naturally, but it's very much which kind of people are listening to this video, since most of them that is not used to drones or robots or whatever, they can be a bit anxious about new technology. Most of them that I'm talking with and talking about is naturally all those who are working with it, really doing even more development on things here.
So I think it's also important for these next generation of entrepreneurs and startups to believe in technology doing something good for the world. And most people, especially in our part of the world, they are not driven so much by higher salary or their salary. It's more about the purpose and why they go to work. And I think, at least in Denmark, we are pretty blessed that we believe in technology. We believe technology will create a better future for us. And even the labor unions in Denmark, they have robot lawn movers in front of their house and so on. And that's a very progressive country. So it's very good here to make this kind of robotics and startups and automate things with technology. And also this whole green perspective, how do we deal with the carbon in the air? I mean, in theory, carbon is a resource that can be used to do cool things instead of being a threat to our climate. And we need technology that deals with all this. And so for startups or new startups, new entrepreneurs, there's a lot of purpose to go after. There's a lot of reason to make new technology to make the planet better. And I think that's something I would like to tell people maybe watching this show.
What about the rest of the world, though, where people have to work to cover up their basic needs, maybe pay the rent or maybe fund the education of their children? They cannot necessarily choose to lead more purpose-driven life. For them, it's more about where is it that they are getting the jobs. So what would you like to say to people who are, or startups that are in other parts of the world, about how can they also lead a purpose-driven life?
Yeah, so I deeply believe there is value in creating the world's, in solving the world's problem. So if the world has a problem, there should be business in dealing with that problem. So you can think like that when you create startups, that this is a real problem that has to get solved. I want to work on that problem, and then just believe that there is somehow money and all this is coming in the other end. So that's one point. But of course, if you struggle every day to get food on the table, your chances of doing a more purpose-driven career is smaller than if you have the luxury of being able to do what you want.
What about some of the purpose-driven activities that you're involved with, Helge? If you could share some of those with us.
We have also our wife's connection to India. I really enjoy seeing people being kind to each other and have respect for each other. And also, even though we have different backgrounds, different views, and still using the technology, whatever, all the things that you achieved yourself, and doing it in a responsible way. So therefore, that my wife and I, we have some family in India, and we're going there, having some projects, social projects, and I really enjoy that. That's very much one of the parts of my life where I really say that's a purpose for my activity. Working that hard that I've done for years, and now I can't stop. It's really fantastic. Really, I enjoy really seeing all those people that we, with our background, with our achievements, really can help. That's really motivating for me.
Part of the reason why I wanted to talk to people in this format of the chat was to really share the knowledge that is in the entrepreneurs, because I often feel that the conversations that I have with people here are so much more different. I can quickly take the idea to execution in no time, which is a unique advantage. And that's what's possible in the Odense robotics ecosystem. And hopefully through this format, people, no matter which part of the world they are, they will be able to hear stories from entrepreneurs like yourself and would be able to empower themselves, basically.
Yeah. And that's really, if you're really saying, why are we doing this? It's naturally to really help the entrepreneurs, since I've seen so many and my heart is burning for them. And I really hope that they will make success. And also that they are doing it in a responsible way.
What you just said about entrepreneurs, do you think all entrepreneurs are cheering for other entrepreneurs? I mean, I also really cheer for new entrepreneurs. If I see a small shop, I buy something there. And I mean, I just can't help myself to try to support all the startups.
It's naturally because we have been struggling that much that we know when we see an entrepreneur, we know
how hard it is,
how many hours they spend really for coming that far.
Yes.
And therefore, I really enjoy having them when they have a victory and they really reach their goal. Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. And I really celebrate with them. But also, when they celebrate, they also should realize that they have been so lucky. That's really something that irritates me a little bit, because I don't know any startup company with success without that they have been that close to bankruptcy. Just like you honestly told, I've been very close to bankruptcy myself. And therefore, we have also to realize that we have been lucky. And therefore, we should be a bit more humble. Some of those who have really made a lot of money, they can be a bit annoying because they feel that they really know the answer of everything. They don't. I've heard it myself. And therefore, let's be humble and just help each other. That's really something, that's one of the things that I really enjoy having, reaching out to people this way.
Yeah. I'm also interested to know about this unique culture of collaboration that exists here. People helping each other and doing things and going the extra miles for each other. And there seems to be a unique trust-based business culture that is existing here. So how important are these values that are sort of not written somewhere on a poster, but are, within everybody who works and lives here?
Yeah, I think it's we had some old people before me, even older than me, and they really helped me that much. And they really they felt good about having at that time a young person really working hard, doing his best and things like that. And therefore, it's really impressed me so much that I try to bring that forward also to the next generation. Yeah. And I hope that you, Espen, will take over this kind of responsibility, really to also to say, why are we doing it? What's really the upper goal for doing all this? And I'm sure I can see, I had this Munk house, entrepreneur house, and it burned down. It was a bad story, things like that. But I've been so glad seeing so many taking over this idea, helping other entrepreneurs. Yeah. And just like Thomas and Torben Frikor and whoever is in the environment taking over. And it's really something that motivates me, that it has been a success, that we are doing it for all the new entrepreneurs, helping even more people. Yeah. So thank you for asking that question. I hadn't really seen it that we should be that proud of our own environment. Thank you for bringing that up.
And I don't know, but your question is also about culture and these kind of things. And I don't know if it's a Danish culture thing. We all went to the same public schools or whatever. But maybe you can shed some light on what you see, because you haven't been raised here.
Like I said, I do find that the undercurrent is the culture of collaboration, and everything stems from the fact that we are trying to do the best that we can in every situation. And doing your best is kind of the mantra, you can say, and do it in a way that makes people collaborators.
I have seen a couple of Danes being very competitive. so I don't think we are that nice, and we don't really. we also are human beings making mistakes and being annoyed when the other ones they have success, things like that. Yeah. But hopefully we really can help each other. So.
Yes, Lifeline Robotics has been an example of that. From the idea to really forming the company, it barely took a couple of months, and that was simply because we could utilize the competence that was in the entire ecosystem, from the corporate side, from the technical competencies, the university, the supplier network. Everything fell into place because we have an ecosystem for collaboration, and we believe in helping each other when a problem arises, and that I think is the spirit of collaboration that is very unique in the ecosystem.
Yes, I do agree, and I can say also the companies, especially Quadsat, the drone company, they have had so much help, and they are really they have a lot of good experiences where they have been reaching out to people, and they're really being trying to help them. And now they are cooperating with the 10 biggest satellite providers and satellite communication providers. And they have a product that is so unique, and it's only for the ones that really want the best. And they really have a big success. But I'm sure they are coming from all over the world, speaking a lot of different languages in that company. And they are so much sure that they have been successful because they could bring all that together in Denmark, because we are a bit more open, and hopefully we'll be able really to handle and take care of companies like that also in the future, just like what's going to happen in Lifeline Robotics.
Yes.
Yeah.